Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, and this is the Eve Universe show. That wasn't supposed to happen. I'm going to reset some things because somebody ruined my day. Boo. This is what happens when Sissy's down. While we're waiting, Mike, say hi so that way we can check.
No, this is what happens when you have me on a show.
That's
Gremlins are
fair. Well,
gremlins.
no, I have a rule. Like at the beginning of every show, the adventure is to discover what is wrong because there's always something. So you got to figure out what it is. Anyway, okay. So, hey, Iron Bandit, Large Quake Zero. Oh my gosh, Legends. Hold on, VIP, Iron Bandit, and then SO Iron Bandit, and SO the now partnered Large Quake Zero. How's that handling for you? Doing all right? Okay. All right. I think we can start again. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Ready? In the character. Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, and this is the Eve Universe show's continued coverage of the CSM 16 election with our interviews, this time with Mike Azariah. How you doing, Mike?
I am doing dandy, and I'm glad that we managed to connect up and get this going.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. There's been a lot of candidates and not a lot of time to do it. I originally thought I had a month. Then I thought I had a week, and now I just found out that I've got 5 more days than I thought I had. For some reason, I'd gotten it in my head that it was actually the 3rd, but now it turns out it actually is the 8th. So I've got a couple more days to at least get a couple more interviews and edits in. But that means that I still got to keep working. And in order to do so, we got to jump right into it. So let's begin by explaining the rules. I have 50 minutes to explore the candidacy with the candidate, and I have their post from the forums in front of me. And I also disclose everything, any personal previous arrangements or friendships or relationships I may have. And then afterwards, the candidate gets 10 more minutes in order to make sure that they feel that they can cover anything that I might have missed, or maybe if they have like a pitch that they want to close out strong on, whatever they want to do. Then when we're both satisfied, we wrap it up at about 1 hour and then send it over to YouTube. It goes on the list with all of the others, so that way you can watch them all and make an informed decision, because that's what's really important. An informed electorate that is putting forward a high quality CSM, so that way we can all together have a better Eve Online. So before we begin, though, I have to do the whole disclosing thing, right? And this one's a little bit different. For a couple of reasons. First of all, Mike Azariah and I go way back. I think I remember talking to Mike Azariah when he was CSM hopeful on try like 2 or 3, having not yet been on the CSM. And all the way to here, through all of your journey. We were going to talk about it a little bit. So, like, in this case, I think I'm just going to say it this way. If, for example, you are watching this video with the 20 plus hours of interviews that I have, you're looking at the playlist and you're like, oh my God, can I just get a TLDR? If you happen to be that person that I know that a lot of my viewers are, that newer player that may be a high sec dude that may not know very much, isn't part of a null block, isn't being told exactly what to vote, but wants to make sure that they vote like for something, for the person that like gets the most out of their vote for sure, not knowing what they are. The magic 14 of votes, the TLDR is Mike Azariah could be your vote. I don't know if he's going to be my number 1, but if you're putting the minimum effort into the CSM and you care still, that's a good vote. That is my version of my my whatever the conflict of interest. So that being said, what I'm actually very interested in with this interview is to explore what the CSM has been for you, what the CSM is in your eyes, what you hope it will be soon, and and all that kind of stuff. So, all that being said, Mike, in case somebody doesn't know who you are, who are you?
Hello, I'm Mike Azariah. Let's see, which way from here? Over there? No, over there.
Yeah.
The image in the middle says the Magic School Bus, which is an operation I've been running for the past 6 years. I have run in way too many CSM elections. I have served 4 terms now on the CSM. I'm an old war dog of the game, so I've been around since 2008. We'll talk about the bus. There'll be a link later to Operation Magic School Bus, which is not a campaign thing. It is something I've been doing for, like I said, 6 years plus solidly when I wasn't on the CSM. It started when I was on CSM. Did not serve on 11, 12, 13, 14. I served on CSM 8, 9, and 10, and I am currently just rounding off another year with CSM 14. I mainly fly in high sec. I really miss going into null and low and going on the occasional roam. Grey Gal's always trying to drag me off to shoot people, and I wish I could say yes more often. I've lived in a wormhole. I've flown in null sec space and been in the wars. I have the only part of the game that I will flat out say I have not done, or parts, or 2 now. I've not done much in Pochven because I flew on the Edencom side exclusively during the live events, and I have not done factional warfare at any time. Other than that, I feel like I've done a lot of what Eve has. I've owned and operated a pause, done industry, all of it. But right now, my main focus is on the new player experience, on the casual players, on the people who are not beholden to the huge blocks in nullsec or the big organizations who just are here to play a game, because that's what I'm doing too.
So, to how did it all begin? When you were Mike Azariah the player, you ran for, I think, CSM 3 times before you got elected.
Yep, I
That
ran
is
on 5, 6, and 7. I think in CSM 5 I got 110 votes.
why? Why would you do that?
Um, oh, part of it's why not? I heard about this. It wasn't for the free trip to Iceland because I had a steady job at the time. I am retired since, but at the time I was working steadily, had a family. I really got into the game fast. I fell into it head over heels, and just felt that at the time, even then, there weren't a lot of representatives of the little guy. It wasn't as much that the huge blocks were running it the way it's been accused now. But okay, sidestep for just a second. You're going to get a lot of this, Ash, because yeah, I got a bit of ADHD as well. I just did a talk on the history of CSM for Eve Uni.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they put it out, I'll be tweeting the link and all that sort of thing. But one of the funny things was in 2004, so 1 year after the game started, they had a CSM that was non-election. CCP picked the players that they wanted to talk to.
Right.
And already I had to go back to the forum archives. There were complaints that goons were running the CSM and calls for the CSM to be canceled or disbanded because it was obviously a waste of time. But they were actually saying that the goons were running it before the CSM 1 even started.
And I mean, arguably, the idea of like it's an inside job is as old as anything. In fact, you could argue that the CSM kind of came from that accusation that it was CCP that was secretly the nefarious Bob, which I mean,
The T20 incident.
so,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, but even without the realization of it, like that, the band of developers was a very common accusation back then. So, like, this idea of like the face is just, the, or it's an inside job. The puppets wag the dog, whatever you want to call it. This is as old as time. But either way, okay, proceed.
So I ran for CSM5, lost horribly. But it was funny, and this is something that if my fellow candidates are watching this, it's a point I really want to make strongly was when I did it, I actually did the rounds with the interviewers of the time. Ash, you weren't there yet, but there were people who preceded you. And it's true. And they said, "Why are you doing this?" One of them was who ran Noir at the time? Declarations of War.
Alex, Alex,
Alexeyev Card.
yes,
Yeah, I know his real name and then I forget and I have to focus for a second to get the name. But he said it was hilarious because I was on there with a null set guy and high-end PvPer, and then there's Mike. By the end of it, he was going, "Holy crap, why aren't you getting any votes?" And then he said, "Oh, it's because you're everybody's second choice."
yep,
And at the time, the election was first past the post, which meant unless you were people's first choice, there was no such thing as a second choice vote. I would get 100 votes. I'd get a few people's first choices, but I wasn't their first choice. They'd vote for the person who represented their gameplay. And high seckers are notorious for being apolitical. They don't really give a damn. They don't even get involved. They don't think that this is a real thing. As a result, the people I represent don't tend to vote for anybody, including myself. But he said, why? I got asked then. So this question was asked then. Why are you here when you know you pretty much don't have a hope in hell of winning? And I said, if I am here and talking and you are listening and it's getting podcasted or broadcasted, I'm influencing the conversation, whether I get on the CSM or not. By
right,
engaging with me, these guys have to be able to talk about war decks because they want to see it from my side and they have to hear my opinion on war decks. So even if I don't win, I am changing what the CSM is. I am changing the conversations that will be had and are being had. So I was willing to keep running and losing because I was still having an effect.
right. I may not make it on the CSM, but you don't get to have a CSM campaign without me in it.
Pretty much, yeah.
I like it. But so then in that case, what do you think contributed to your travel from, not getting 100 votes to being on the CSM? Do you think it was just a matter of the vote switch, or was it a gradual accumulation of built up trust? Was it a name recognition issue? Was it a fine if it'll just shut him up? Like,
I
what do
think
you
it
think it
was a
was?
I think it was a bit of both, but I do think that the change in the voting structure from first past the post to single transferable vote made a huge difference because then I only had to survive the first pass of votes. And as long as I wasn't the lowest, then that joke about me being second choice started to pay off
Right,
because you could see the play out where I got enough votes at the beginning to stay in the running, but then the trickle down started feeding me.
right.
And CCP Aurora has done a great job of doing visualizations for the last couple of elections.
That's true.
And if you look at this one, I came out low to mid even now on the CSM 15 election, but every iteration, it went 29 cycles of eliminating people and seeing who got elected. And every one of those, you could see my vote tally kept going up a little, sometimes up by 100 or even 500. But the rest of the time, it was just, I'm not your first choice, but I'm a good choice. And yeah, I did slowly gain recognition from my time on podcasts. I was on Podside. I was a regular on several podcasts at the time. The old joke was not can we get Mike to talk, it's can we shut him up.
It has been a long standing understood, like, secret, I don't know, industry thing within the podcasting Eve podcasting community that if you have like an evening and you don't know how to cover it, you just invite Ashrothi and Mike Azariah on and just like say the topic and walk away, and you're pretty much good for just give us like the block of time and we just go. But anywho, so either way, hook or by crook, you finally make it onto the CSM. And again, I wanna go into like how foundational that was, because when I talk about like make sure to put them at the top of your list if you care because you don't want them to get eliminated early. You know why we say that stuff and why we know that stuff? Mike Azariah, what he just said right there. You know, when we talk about the I don't know whether or not you predated the wormhole like primaries in order that I've been talking about so much with the wormholers, but what in a world in which it was mostly believed that you had to be in a block or at least have like be part of a null area, the idea that it was just understood that a high sec candidate could not pull together the votes to be able to be elected. And Mike Azariah proved how to do it. And then when he was elected, he got to work. And, sometimes I ask some CSM guys, uh, what are you most proud of or whatever? So I'm just going to lowball it to you. And what is Mike Azariah known for during his first stint in the CSM?
First stint, I didn't get a lot. There wasn't the controversy. What I did do is lay a lot of the foundation, getting to know the devs. And this is one of the reasons why incumbents are good, is because they already know who to talk to. Uh, Before the show started, we were chatting, and I said, it's interesting that each CSM kind of invents itself and sets its own limits as well as its own goals. And it's kind of funny that the way we set limits on ourselves is what we believe we can get done and who we think we should be talking to. So in CSM 8, we had some great people. We had Trevor Daydu, we had Jester, Ripper Teg was on that council, and we had some real powerhouses who knew their stuff. But a lot of us were coming in for the first time, and it meant that we weren't getting the solid connection to the previous ones that some of the others, when you have the incumbents going from one to the other to the next. Uh, Ripper Teg did an AMA on Reddit, and he said he felt like he was being tested when we went to the summit, in that they started asking him questions about events in Eve to see if he actually knew his stuff, which, as far as I'm concerned, is ludicrous. And I almost believe that Rippard was, they were reminiscing, not testing him, but he just took it as a test, if you understand what I mean. They were just
Yeah,
saying, how about them Dodgers? And he's immediately thinking has to know the box scores for the 1938 game against the Yankees. Uh,
he was seeing it. He was seeing it from his framework, right? He was seeing it from
right.
his perspective.
And he is and was a very competitive person, so everything for him felt like a test. I came in and was I don't get angry. I can get passionate about something, but I was often the calming influence where it would be, can we get back on track? Can we get, what are we measuring? How are we measuring it? What are you trying for? Which has become a common theme for me throughout all my terms of CSM, is when CCP makes a change, I would like to know why. Are we making a change just for change's sake? Or are we making a change because we think the game will be better, because the play will be better, because this will be a good thing for the Eve ecosystem? I made a joke just the other day saying I almost think that Eve has economy people on staff who honestly watch the Eve economy inside. Their economist used to be Dr. Ayo, which is short for a very long name that I can never pronounce. He left Eve to become the president of a university in Iceland. Like, this is the caliber of people that they've had there. But I almost think we need an ecology person in there as well to say, this is the ecosystem. If you look at the pirates as the wolves, you look at the miners as the sheep. If we want to keep a vibrant ecosystem and not cause mass um, annihilation of species, what do we have to do? Which dials are the best ones to turn to do that?
Right. And I mean, I know that he's one of the names that people like to I don't know, sling criticism on at the moment. So however you feel about it, but CTP Rotati has really brought that terminology, the idea of looking at Eve as an ecosystem, um, to the forefront. And it is possibly true that while he is, in my opinion, a pretty decent developer, especially from his time in Dust 514, it is possibly true that having like an actual, like somebody with ecology background, in the same way that CCP Ghost brought in his background as like an interrogator and understanding people and motivations and all that stuff, and took that to the new player experience and developing the friendship machine and all that kind of stuff. Maybe too, we need somebody that understands like more biological systems as a way of understanding our stuff, because often we try to look at things like as just like the market, but the problem is that it is still a game, and like there are some effects that affects things in certain ways. But if you look at it as a biological system, it works in much better ways, or in different ways at least, and so that would be very useful. Either way,
It would
sorry.
be an interesting sideline um, approach to have. Over the years, occasionally CCP will send people to me to interview me, which is really weird, but there are academics who do papers like The Friendship Machine,
Uh-huh.
and they consider me, like I said, an old dog who's been around the block on this and has a lot of opinions and can actually speak English. So I speak English good. As a result, uh, it's funny because the conversations I get into them, they do look at the academics look at Eve from a lot of different viewpoints and sources. It's not just people looking at it as a game, but as a dynamic system. They're looking at the friend, like you said, the friendship machine. For those of you who don't know, CCP is actually running a free course that you can take called the Friendship Machine through Iceland University. So you can actually take a course that involves CCP and Icelandic psychologists, and Ghost was part of the introduction to that. I watched that video just a couple of days ago.
That is, I mean, that's a big piece of this, and not to I don't know, cheer on CCP too much all at once, but like I think that people often, we as players, don't often appreciate how new the gaming medium is, and how new in particular MMOs are. Like we think, oh, it's been, WoW is, or, Eve is almost 20 years old. WoW is, over 15. Ultima Online is 20. Yeah. How long have novels been around? How long have movies been around? Right. These are how long has like modern advertising been around? These are much more mature kind of systems. Whereas like video games in particular are what a rapidly emerging medium by contrast, and at the same time also in a lot of ways the bleeding edge of psychology and sociology, pushing the line of understanding of human motivation and whatnot, to the point where there are game developers like, or game designers like Jane McGonigal, that are challenging game designers to return to uh, like the academic architectural system, world, in order to help build real life systems in the same way that we build gaming systems. But I digress.
Actually, I do want to tag one thing onto that, going back to CSM, because I
Absolutely, go
think we
for it.
started with talking about CSM. When I was talking about
Presumably.
the when I was talking about the history of the CSM, it was interesting that the first couple of council meetings were pure text and sending not a direct conversation, but more like email back and forth only between CCP and the CSM. Then they started to slowly, as they could do it, they shifted to Skype, but unfortunately, Skype doesn't carry a lot of. It's not like Teams or Zoom. You can't have 20 people on a Skype call. And so, if you did try to have all of the CSM council and more than a couple of devs, you'd wind up going roboto on the voice, or the cameras would jinx out. in CSM8, we tried to telecommute because I could only go to one of the summits. Actually, we had to choose which summit we wanted to go to and to even be given an offer of it. And so, but I telecommuted to the other one, and the connection was so bad it sounded like somebody was doing Jiffy Pop next to the microphone all the way through the summit, like just pop, 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 arrhythmically. And but we still did our level best. So I was up like at 3 in the morning trying to do summits and talk to the devs through connections that look at this. We're doing video conversation, broadcasting it to, there's about 30 other people watching it on Twitch, and you're going to be putting it on YouTube. Over the past decade, the leaps and bounds that the technology has done has its effect just as a tool for things like the CSM, and it changes how the CSM works and how we can interact with the devs.
Yeah.
So Swift, CCP Swift mentioned it. We had a 2 hour meeting with one of the devs this morning. It was booked to be an hour, but we just got so into it that it just kept going and going because we had more and more. It was one of those cans of worms where it's like, let's talk about X. Oh, X connects to Y, that connects to Z, and let's go back and talk about X. Look, there's M and Q over there. And so the conversation, we tried our damnedest to keep it focused. But at times, what the CSM is dealing with is such bedrock foundational ideas that when you talk about changing some of the bedrock, everything that's growing out of that bedrock is going to be affected. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, to use an example, not the example, but an example. If you talk about mining, and anyone, I've actually had people tell me miners should be removed from the game, and I look at them and go, are you screwed in the head or just stoned right now? Because, miners are what part of where your ship came from. Unless you're in a bloody Corvette, somebody made your ship,
Right.
and it was made by stuff that was mined. So removing miners is, you're an idiot.
That is actually one of the things I've also really appreciated is that while you do support HiSec, you are more than willing to tell it as it is and tell people that on either side, if it's a Care Bear that is asking for ganking to be removed from the game, or PvPer asking for PvE to be removed from the game, you're just going to look at them and be like, dude, get Eve before you talk to me.
Yeah, and that's basically it, is understand how big this game is. And I tweeted, I don't know if you caught my tweet the other day, the three big myths or arguments that I trip across on a regular basis when I'm talking to players.
I've not, no, I did not see it.
Okay, first one is people who say Eve is just a PvP game.
Yes.
And I'm going, you haven't been playing very long, have you? You can choose to be PvP, but if you think there's no PvE in this game, then you don't understand how wide the game is.
Well, so yeah, and some people, and I get this both ways. What I often say is that, PvP, without the PvP, the PvE would lose its depth, and without the PvE, the PvP would lose its depth. Like they give each other support, and while you may not like one, like the negative emotions that you feel towards it is actually part of the entire design, right? Like that's just the feeling of work, or that's just the feeling of, whatever. Like, and that's what should spur you on. But getting back, reining this in, we're gonna
Good luck.
we're never gonna get through anything. But so bad old days of like carrier pigeons, hard to get anything done, obviously. But when I said the first cycle, what I meant was like your first like stretch through. So what I was sort of trying to allude to be more direct, was that while a lot of CSM guys may not necessarily have a claim to fame, some do, but you are probably one of the first and biggest that had a claim to fame.
That. Okay. There's two things. I'm actually going to toot my horn twice.
Go for it.
Once on something I helped make, and once on something I helped stop. Because this is the two things that the CSM can't do all the time and may go entire years where they didn't. But there are times where we can bring an idea from the players to CCP and say, we would like to see this go forward, or we would like to see this change happen. There's other times where CCP comes to the CSM and says, "Look at our great idea," and we go, "That's shit." And then we have to spend the next several hours explaining to them where the idea breaks down or where there are problems. I have seen players that are no longer with us but served on the CSM. CCP brought ideas to CSM 8, and Minna, who was the Goon representative at the time, said, "If you do this, we will exploit it. And this is exactly how we will exploit it." And they said, "Players won't do that." And Minna said, "All I can do is tell you and warn you, but this is what's going to happen." And it did. They ignored Minna and went straight forward and wound up having to eat crow and backpedal fast when they realized that when goons warn you, when the goon representative warns you, this is how it can be exploited. If you're not listening, you're going to regret it.
Is that faction warfare?
I'm
I'm
I
pretty
think
sure that
it
was the faction warfare one.
might have been faction warfare, and they were saying how they could play the market. Remember when
So that
faction
was
warfare was going through the yo-yos back and forth,
no,
get
no,
it to
no. That
five,
was
and
that
then
wasn't what it was. That wasn't what it was. This was so bad. It's the one time that there's been an exploit so egregious that CCP has actually had to go back and try to undo the damage of it. What it was when faction warfare first was done as rebalance, they wanted to make it so that now if you kill an enemy guy, you got points for it. You got paid for it, right? So they tied the ISK pay or the LP payout to the value of the ship and its cargo.
oh right, and then they played the market to make super valuable, super stupid things super valuable.
So they got these things that like nobody ever used, mods that nobody ever used, and they took them out to like null region or whatever and traded them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in order to like artificially inflate their value. And then they went out and executed them over and over again with their faction warfare characters and made literally trillions of ISK in days to the point where
Yep, that
CCP
that
was
was
like,
one of them,
"Uh oh,
and they were warned.
right,
So I'll do the time I stopped something, and then I'll do the time I made something
okay,
over the years that I've been on the CSM. There was a time when the nullsec war was using the wall of drones. What was that called? It had a nickname, but it
uh,
was just
you said finger." Well, there's Finger of Death with slow cats.
yeah,
And then there was Skynetting when you had fighters assigned off grid. Which one of those
yeah.
two?
That it was the slow cats,
Okay, yeah, slow cat
and
drone carriers.
so what happened was, see, there had been complaints that this was actually driving, everybody was having to shift to this as being the best way to kill.
Hmm.
And so CCP said, fine, we'll just remove all drone assist from the game.
Oh,
And I said, why? And they said, well, this is what's being done in nullsec. And I said, are you aware of the fact that there are other groups that don't abuse it that really need it? And what I was talking about was incursion
yep.
runners use drone assist, and I flew as drone bunny. And I love having, it's not a huge ball of death, but it's still kind of neat to say, kill him and watch this swarm go. And so I negotiated with CCP Fozzie. From zero, I got it back to a reasonable number of drones that could be assigned to a single player. But I got it to the number that incursions could actually continue running and still have a drone bunny.
Which is
So that
50.
was something that I stopped happening, was the removal of drone assist as a whole.
So, but when was that?
I want to say that would be CSM 9 or 10.
Okay, well then where were you this year or last year when they tried to do that again? Where were
Still,
you,
well,
Mike?
I'm still fighting with them.
I mean, admittedly, it did get stopped.
That drone shift caught us flat-footed. See, CCP doesn't always tell us
That's fair.
what changes are coming. Some of them you guys find out at the same time we find out. There's others where we have a small window to operate on, and there's others where it's a larger window. So it depends on which, to a certain extent, it depends on which dev we're dealing with as well.
Hmm.
Some devs actually like getting feedback and the back and forth with the CSM, almost as if we're a sounding board or extra brains to apply to a problem. Other devs get the bit in their teeth and they say, I'm the guy who's getting paid for this. I'm going to do it and I'll tell you when I'm finished. And off it goes. And so a lot of us is get sometimes getting the support from CCP Ratati and the other high up guys. Sometimes I forget the CCP names, and I want to say the real names. So I'm going to just the other executive producers to convince the devs to actually talk to us. We can't always stop things. There are times where CCP, like I say, they've decided this is the direction we want to go, and the best we can do is control the fall. You know, like say, yes, but can we get this? Or yes, have you considered that? Or
I-
can we get rid of the red button,
but
the red
but
dot?
but I assume that you then helped prevent it from happening because ultimately that change didn't happen. Did you?
Yeah, we gave them a ton of feedback.
Okay.
The other thing we often are is just the representatives of large groups. So the CCP, the CSM people were going, look, my people are having a problem with this. Phantomite was saying the same thing as coming out of low sec. I was saying in high sec, this is ruining entire ships when they can't use the drones that they've been used before. Can I answer one question from the side chat? Just because if I don't do it now, I'll probably forget before the
Sure.
end.
Sure. Go for it.
Uh, a couple of people are saying they just don't know what my key values are for the game yet, or why they should vote for me.
Hmm.
And so, to a certain extent, if you have somebody better that represents you, then you should go with the person who best represents your lifestyle in the game. I represent, as I said at the beginning, the casual player, the high sec players, but I also represent the game as a whole, and I represent communication between the players and CCP directly, which is a key thing because if you go in the forums, there's only two CSMs who talk in the forums to the players and take the stuff back to CCP. I'm one of them.
It's
There's
true.
not a lot of CSM members, the incumbents, who actually go out and talk to people other than the people they were talking to before the election started. In other words, they have their alliance, their corp, and they probably still talk and get feedback from them. But you don't have a lot of forward facing players who have a proven track record of talking to you and listening to you. And so that is part of it is you want somebody who actually will be taking the representative aspect of the CSM. I do not claim to be a baby developer. I do not make my own ideas. I do not go to CCP with stuff that I've got this bright idea. So if you're looking for a guy who's coming up with great ideas and trying to push them through and you're hoping his ideas are good, I'm not the guy. What I am is a representative of the players and a person who looks at CCP's changes and says, what are how are those changes going to affect all the players? Like just because you're fixing something in nullsec, have you now screwed over wormholes? Have you screwed over factional warfare? Will highsec be able to live with these changes? So you've got somebody who looks at the overall changes in the game and looks at the game as a whole. So if that's not a reason to vote for me, then there's 46 other candidates. But I did want to get that out of the way.
Awesome. Yeah,
Going
absolutely.
back going back to the thing that I did help make, an example of me not being the developer. Okay, I did not come up with the idea, but people were complaining that there wasn't a way to move big ships that were fitted other than flying them A to B. And this was a big problem for the incursion fleets because quite often incursions will have multiple battleships. They'll have a DPS battleship. At one point, we actually used jammers. I used to fly a Scorpion. But we'd use various large ships. But if one incursion ended and the next one was 30 jumps over, you flew one battleship there, went back in a shuttle, flew the next battleship over, went back in a shuttle. So before you got to run the next incursion, you might rack up between 60 and 100 jumps. What we were looking for was a ship like a tugboat or a super large carrying ship that could fly in high sec. So a shipping ship, to make a joke about it. And I took this idea, it was on the forums, and I got involved in the forum thread, and we back and forth and talked it out. And a lot of people said it's a stupid idea. And then when they say it's a stupid idea, I'll ignore you. If you say it's a stupid idea because I'll read that. So it's whenever you want to have an argument with me or convince me of something, do not just give me some flat statement of it's good, it's bad. Give me reasons and a thought out process. Give me logic
Hmm.
as to what works or why it won't work. Be the goon. Say, if you do this, this is how we'll exploit it.
Right.
And as a result, a lot of back and forth. And I said, yeah, I like this idea. I'm going to take it to CCP. And we went to a summit and I batted this idea at dev after dev. And I finally figured out the right dev who would do a new ship. Because that's the key thing is finding the guy who actually not only will listen to you, but will be able to do something with what you say.
But who can put it to use? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I talked for probably 15, 20 minutes in a summit, and he went, yeah, that's an okay idea, I guess. So, but that evening we went to Nora's, which is a bar in Reykjavik, and I sat and I spent another 45 minutes just bending his ear on this. And he started coming up with all the objections. He said, um, it's going to be a target. And I said, that's okay. He said, I'm not going to give it weapons or a drone or anything. I said, fine. And that one really stopped him. He said, you're willing to fly a big ship with other ships in it, have no way to fight back? Yep. That's what we're asking for is we want a shipping ship, not a warship. We just want something big that can move ships. And within 4 months, we got the Bowhead, which is a fantastic ship for flying around. You can see in the images right there, the Magic School Bus is a Bowhead. That's a ship I fly a lot. But that ship was mainly made for the incursion community. It was designed by people in the incursion community. But as a CSM representative, I took it and sold it and got it pushed through. And CCP has gone on record of saying, yeah, Mike did that one.
Arguably, nowadays the again going back to the institutional like history, the idea that a CSM representative could like champion a specific thing, this has been used as like the icon example of that. But so extremely passionate about the game. We are getting like running somewhat low on time.
I told you that would happen.
Already, and we aren't even out of your first term, but your first you did, or not your first term, but your first like series of terms, but you did leave the CSM. You didn't get voted out, but you didn't keep running. And I just wanted you to address really quick what it was that took you out from running from the CSM, or like being continuous.
Well, I hit some hard times, not financially, but came down with cancer. And so for a couple of my terms, I was going through doing various treatments for the cancer. Exhaustion was a thing. And finally, it's just between having a real life job that I was doing on and off I was a teacher and doing the stuff with CCP, I found that my energy limits were hitting I was low on cap. So I wound up having to take some time to just be me, get better, and eventually, when I ran this pastime, I was retired. So now I have the time to do this sort of thing. I have the time to be able to talk on podcasts in the evening, do the morning 2 hour meetings with CCP, be constantly following various threads. I do a lot. I read the thread knots. Occasionally, I'll throw in my burning pitchfork, but the rest of the time I'm just reading, trying to get the feedback and looking for, like I said, if you want to get me as a representative, give me ammo aside from that's a shit idea. Give me that is bad because this past year I thought, yay, I'm back and healthy. Uh,
Yeah.
there's, I don't like the joke that CCP is cancer, but while I served on CSM 15, I made no secret. I actually tweeted the images, and it was a good thing too, of me doing chemo again because I had another bout of cancer. I lost kidney, and I've had heart work done on my heart. I've had 3 stents put in, all during a pandemic in the hospital. So right now, I'm healthy. I'm waiting on a doctor's call for the latest CAT scan, but I like cats. On the other hand, I like dogs too, so we do a lot of lab work. Uh, that's a joke, son.
Golly. All right, all right. Well, so and I thank you for talking about that. I wanted to bring that up because this is always something that has struck me as just truly impressive about you and kind of stand out, and it is kind of hard for me to like pull out what your issue is or whatever it is because that isn't really what you've ever been about. Um, but all I can do is kind of help point out what you've done and you showcase, how the CSM works in your eyes. The fact that you did this until you couldn't anymore, and then we tried to stick by you while you fought with it, and then when you were strong enough, you came back again. You didn't have to, dude. Like I asked you then, and like, why are you doing it? You said you still care. You still want. You think you can make a difference. Here you are again, and I'm gonna just ask you again, man. Why do you keep doing this? You don't have to. You've done so much. Um,
I am feeling there's a horrible thing. If you look at the past history, the book, the Eve book that came out at one of the anniversaries,
yeah, I remember that one.
that book has pictures of people who were in the CSM. The scary thing is, if you take a look at that, the number of people who are no longer playing.
Uh,
The CSM has a really horrid ability to burn some people out, not just from serving on the CSM, but completely out of the game. And so you have a few asbestos players who have managed to survive. Steve Ronikin is the king of them. A few people who have served on the CSM have been hired by CCP, CCP Swift being the most recent example. But I'm fairly sure that CCP Alpha also served on a CSM about CSM 6 or thereabouts. So I haven't burned out. I
yeah,
enjoy serving, I enjoy this aspect of the game. But the other thing that's critical this time is I am old. I don't know if I even want to travel to Iceland again. I've been there often enough. It's fun, but I'm, it's a long trip on an uncomfortable airplane. I'm 6'3". I do not fit in airplanes. But this time I'm asking for you to vote for me because there are things coming that I put a lot of work into this CSM and I have absolutely nothing to show for it because it's taking longer than a year for the things to come. And I want to be here to see it through. I want to finish this job. And there may be new things, there's always new things that are starting, but we've put a lot of effort into it, and there's a lot of stuff I've worked on that just won't happen in the next quarter. And that's one of the ways they divide it up is just Q1, Q2, Q3. And I want to be there to finish the job that I've started.
I want to challenge you on that because like I'm the Magic School Bus the Bowhead. I'm sure that feels very very good. Um, the work that you've done is very very important. Is it about being on the CSM when it's released? Because I think that like we won't. It isn't that we won't think that you didn't contribute or that you won't get credit. Like, or is it more that you're afraid that something might go wrong at the last minute or something
Well,
along those
that's the
lines?
thing. It's not even the last minute
Well, okay,
part.
that's fair, but like
One of these
between now
things.
and then,
Yeah, there's too much stuff between here and the finish line that I want to make sure that the proper hurdles are hit, the proper things are done, and it is stuff that is very dear to me.
right?
So, yeah, I know that if something comes out and I'm not on there, you'll say, I think I see Mike's hand in there, and that'll be nice. But it's got nothing. If they put it out and I'm on the CSM and they say, we'd like to especially thank Brisk for it, I'll go, yeah, it's out there, and I don't need my name on it.
It's not about the
I need
credit,
it. I need it to be done right.
right? You you really care about this stuff. You're now invested in it, and you want to land the plane. And that's really, I think that's really important. I've asked a few of the other incumbent candidates, like, what is something that like you are almost there on that you're afraid won't be there if you don't get elected. And it sounds to me like I probably shouldn't ask that question for you because, redacted. But that also gets me really, really excited because of the kind of things that you could get feedback for. Um, I am getting pretty much close to my 10-minute warning, but I think I figured it out. I started out with just like, if the TLDR vote for you. And I've been, I try to think about like the reason to vote for any given candidate, and like where, uh, why somebody should put somebody at the top. And, there are null block candidates, there are wormhole candidates, there are faction warfare candidates, there are high tech candidates right now. You are the anti-bitter vet candidate. And I'm not even joking, man. Of all of us institutionalized, long in the tooth dudes, all of us have had some sort of time. Brisk, I think, or somebody was mentioning about how like everybody's been banned at least once, and I made the joke about how I haven't, but like everybody's been bitter pretty seriously, publicly at least once of all of us. But you've always been the guy that kind of keeps the hope alive. You've always been, in a way, the father and soul of EVE Online, and I think in a lot of ways, a lot of people kind of come to just kind of see you as like a facet of the CSM, and I hope that doesn't cause people to take it for granted, and therefore,
Yeah, I can lose an election just as easily as the next guy. Um, I do need the votes. I don't take it as a given. I think you were asked on the stream, the one that was running today, whether you'd interviewed some of the other people, and some you said you've contacted and they don't contact back. There are people, and I'm not going to name names because I don't throw people under the bus. I drive a bus. But there are players who feel absolutely assured of their election.
mhm.
They will get elected because they have enough of a force behind them that there they go. I don't. I do the I do the footwork, I do the campaigning, I show up and do the talking, but to a certain extent, it's always in the voters' hands. It's not in my hands. My hands is to present what I can for what I do and what I represent.
And unfortunately, like, I can't believe that this is the tacked on thing, right? This is the very definition of burying the lead. But I refuse, absolutely refuse, to end up this interview without at least discussing the Magic School Bus. So before I briefly introduce it, when did you start doing the Magic School Bus?
6.5 years ago, I did it. We came up with two ideas. I came up with two ideas in the same podcast on Podside at the end of November. I actually looked it up. And one was called Operation Northern Troll, which I still do to this day. Operation Northern Troll is every year I send a Christmas card to CCP. And usually it's a big ass three-dimensional fold-out Christmas card. And I said, it's nice getting paper, not wish them Christmas on a stream, not send them an email, send them an honest to God, stamps on the envelope, signature on the inside card. So in my blog, I will publish whatever the current address is for CCP. And Bara, that's CCP Harker, always sends a little note saying thank you. She tweets out a note or a picture of the card that I sent. But that was one, and it was just trying to help people remember that quite often we talk about these organizations. We keep saying CCP, we keep saying CSM. It's people. There are real people at the other side of that who are making their living doing this. You are a customer supporting them, but we tend to forget that, and you get hashtag fire whichever dev came out with the last idea, which is a really lousy thing to do. You're talking about dealing with a real human being. So Operation Northern Troll was that one. The second was Operation Magic School Bus. And I named it that because there's a TV show in North America called The Magic School Bus. And while they never say it out loud, the key to it is learning by doing. In the television show, the kids are always learning their lessons by doing things. and going out and experiencing it. So I fly around the career systems handing out free fitted ships depending on the age of the pilot from 0 to 30 days. If you're 0 to 7, it's a fitted out frigate, racially appropriate for whatever system we're in. If you're between 7 and 20, it's a fitted out destroyer. And if you're between 20 and 30, it is a fitted out cruiser. And it costs a fair amount of ISK. I put the ships together. I use the bowhead to fly them to the various points. And I've been doing that steadily for 6 years. There was an interview that I don't know if that's the one. Is that with Minxie? Or no, that's a different one. But
I'm just
Minxie
showing
for
things.
Signal Cartel did an interview with me, and she actually asked, "How long do you plan on doing this?" That was 4 years ago. And I said, I will do it until I run out of assets. So people donate to the bus. And as yet, every time someone donates, I try to send them a thank you note. But sometimes, if it's big enough, I send them a thank you note saying, "Thank you for chaining me to this project for the rest of my natural born days." Because,
Pretty.
it's just, it's what the bus is the donations keep me going and they keep me being able to hand out ships. I did a bus run this morning, handed out 3 caracals, 2 coraxes, and about 7 kestrels, all fitted out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm one of the people that have received an email to that effect. But no, it's funny because you said it earlier that this isn't like a campaign thing, and it's almost funny that you have to bring this up during campaigns. Absolutely not. This is just something that you've done in and out of campaigns, and have become really a absolute like just in the same way that you've shown us what a CSM member can be and what and how to be a CSM representative for HiSec and all these other things. So too have you shown. Dang it! I just lost my whole point because I'm getting distracted by this awesome magic card that was made about you. I ain't gonna lie.
What I've shown is that one person um, with the right idea can make a big difference in the game.
Right.
Somebody, any of you can do this. The only thing I have going for me is I have a reputation of being an honest man. So in the game, people donate to the bus. You send ISK to Mike Azariah and just put reason for the bus. And what you're doing is you're saying, I trust you to actually use that money for the bus as opposed to flying the latest bling ship into nullsec. I don't,
Yeah.
but I use the bus money for the bus. So either you trust me and you donate, and some people donate ships, preferably in the trade hubs, so I can actually pick them up with the bowhead and fly them out. But sometime, Ash, I gotta send you a map of, those asset maps of where you've got stuff
Yeah. Oh
that you
yeah.
can do on F10. I did that, and all of HiSec glows.
Oh, I'm sure. So I remember where I was going with this though, which is that like this outreach has made you like this and other things. When we talk about you being trusted, like trust is incredibly important in EVE Online, but the level of trust that you have transcends the game. Not only do people trust you with ISK, but CCP does and has trusted you in ways that they often haven't trusted other people. Earlier, you mentioned the fact that they send interviewers your way, and I'm sure that one of the reasons why is because they trust that you will, give a good, you're an ambassador, and that they don't have to be worried about it if they send them to Mike Azariah, and it'll be taken care of. That's a huge thing for a company to do, put a trust in a non-employee like that. And likewise, in a time in which the rookie chat was completely locked out, Mike Azariah was the only one, and this wasn't even like, well, I mean, I think it started out as a CSM thing, but even after you were out of the CSM, I believe, was still one of the few, if only, people that were allowed in the rookie channel because he was trusted with the newbies. And so CCP, who have worked with Mike Azariah more than anyone else, trusts Mike with our newbies. So we should too.
I do want to do one brag. humble brag, but I was saying to Ash before we started, somebody went back to the Magic School Bus forum thread, which is in the rookie section, and picked out a few people who said thank you for a ship and checked, and all those people from 2, 3 years ago, almost all of them are still in the game. He said, I have a retention rate that CCP would kill for if they could actually clone and do this more. Just the fact that the players met somebody who was willing to talk to them, willing to give them a starting ship, not a ton of ISK or anything like that. I seriously, seriously dislike giving ISK to players because they learn absolutely nothing from it. All they'll do is they'll be idiots, go out, bling fit a ship and then lose it and then quit the game in frustration. And I've seen that happen.
Hmm.
So I prefer to give them a ship that says, this is a way you can fit it. This is very simple. This is an alpha fit, so you should be able to get into it with less than an hour or two of training. And when you get older, when you get more skilled, upgrade the modules. But I went out and did a ton of research and a lot of work trying to figure out decent alpha fits. And if somebody checks and sees an alpha fit and they say, Mike, that's a little old, you need to fix it, tell me and I'll fix it if I can. But understand I'm limited by the parameters of what can I buy in bulk and what can an alpha fly. So don't show me a Caracal fit that uses T2, um, you know, higher modules that an alpha can't fly.
Yep. And you specifically use ships that are capable and designed to go into PvP scenarios. You want to teach from the very beginning that the game is inclusive.
More than half the bus ships are PvP fit because a PvP fit can fly a mission, but a mission ship will die if it tries to fly PvP. So I don't max min for missions. I'll let them, if they want to do that, if they want to mine in a, oh please, in a rock, that's their problem. But if they want to, fly a ship, I find it more Swiss Army knife to give them a ship that can do PvP and do other stuff.
Yeah, and I have somebody in chat that's agreeing with you that they have their Magic School Bus ship from 2015, and before this episode even began, one of our really awesome members that has been a active, like one of our tippy top, actually in our directorate for quite some time, came in and said that I believe he said he still has the ship that you gave him. That you've done so much for us, and I guess I'm just glad that I could use this opportunity with this interview to help people see who you are. Because I think it's pretty easy to figure out why somebody should vote for you. And I guess my endorsement would be that when it comes to Mike Azariah, it shouldn't be a question of if he should be on your ballot. I would ask, please have it be a question of where on your ballot Mike is.
So can I do my last pitch? And I'll
Go
keep it
for it.
under 10, I promise.
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, last pitch. People, if you don't want to vote for me, I'm okay with that. I don't know who you are. How am I going to know whether you voted for me or not? If you don't vote for me and I do get in, I'll still represent you. But what I beg of you is please vote. You're spending time right now. You've sat here for more than an hour watching me and Nash talk about the game. And if you've been doing this, you've probably watched other ones, either because that person's in your organization or your alliance or whatever. But by even being here, you showed that you care about the election. Finish that caring by actually filling out your ballot, not just with one name, but with multiple names, because that's how the STV works and how the cascade works. But vote. Vote for the people that you think will be good for the game, not necessarily for you, but for all of us, for the game. Because if the game lasts and if the game stays vibrant, then you'll be able to play it for a long period of time. If we elected a bunch of people who were all, it's about me and it's about what's for us and it's about for my little clique of people, and they actually managed to convince CCP to do stuff, we'd be unbalancing the ecosystem. And we would see mass extinctions followed by a death of an ecosystem that we call EVE Online. So, like I said, you're doing the research. Thank you. You're here. Thank you. If you vote for me, thank you very much. But even if you don't vote for me, vote. Please do the research, vote for somebody.
Well said, Mike. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you all for checking it out. And it's been a great time as always. And I need to have you on the show soon after when all this is done. Either way.
Win or lose, you invite me and I'll show up.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And if you're good, then 07. Have a good one.
Thank you very much.